Rosa Luxemburg once wrote, "The most revolutionary thing that one can do is to proclaim loudly what is happening." A lot happened in the 2026 Washington State legislative session. This year began in Olympia with optimism about several revenue proposals that could fund popular programs in Washington State at a time that the other Washington is defunding them. Much of the narrow political bandwidth of our part-time state legislature became devoted to an income tax on millionaires. This was understandable. The passage of an income tax in an 8-week legislative session was a historic achievement. On the same November 8, 1932 election day, when Washingtonians pledged their delegates to elect Franklin Roosevelt President of the United States, a strong majority of our people also elected to enact an income tax. That voter initiative was struck down by the state Supreme Court 10 months later. Consequently, for the last 93 years, state lawmakers have resorted to patchwork, frequently clumsy ways and means of funding state programs. Because of our long history with regressive sales and property taxes, Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson's income tax bill was embraced as a panacea of progressive revenue. But in the House of Representatives, it became clear that the income tax proposal that emerged from the Senate potentially contained as many revenue issues as it solved. The income tax bill won't begin bringing in revenue until 2029 at the earliest, meaning that many members of the state legislature in the meantime would still be expected to enact deep cuts to childcare, to higher education, to K-12 schools, programs that the income tax in its original form was not written to subsidize directly. Additionally, as part of the political bargain to pass Senate Bill 6346's millionaire tax, the bill contained a huge corporate tax break that would have cost the state $500 million. A related measure, Senate Bill 6347, repealed a recent expansion of the state's estate tax on ultra-wealthy inheritances, costing programs low-income families depend on another $250 million. These poison pills of austerity threaten to undermine a win for everyday people. On a short timeline, the House Democratic Caucus went about further readying the bill sent to us by the Senate for final passage. 47th Legislative District Representative Deborah Entenman, with whom I serve on the Legislative Black Caucus, drew a line in the sand, securing a crucial commitment to low-income child care support in Washington's income tax proposal. I was also proud to organize with 12 of my colleagues in the House of Reps to oppose the shameful corporate giveaway in the income tax bill. My office generated a letter to the chair of the House Finance Committee, hand-delivered it days before our committee vote on the income tax bill, and effectively amended that handout out of the bill that will be delivered to the governor's desk for signage. While so many are ready to blame the left for impeding the slow walk of centrist politics, our team of 13 showed that principle is not the enemy of progress. In November 2024, I was elected to the state legislature to represent the 43rd Legislative District, the area that includes Seattle's University District, Capitol Hill, and Fremont. I am the first open socialist to serve in this body since 1914. My predecessor, Representative William H. Kingery, elected in 1912, fought hard for K-12 funding, for public housing and medicine, for measures to lower the cost of living for working families. Representative Kingery was a logger. He was active in his timber worker union on our state's peninsula. Over a century ago, he observed that the reason why so many in America delayed starting families was because of low wages. The passion that the legislature's last socialists had for economic justice has informed my own. I came to Olympia on the promise of playing offense for everyday people by finding new sources of progressive revenue to fund public programs, and of playing defense by scrutinizing our state's unfair tax code, which contains advantages that make the wealthy wealthier and the powerful more potent. Last year, my office advanced House Bill 1858, making big banks pay the same document recording fee on real estate purchases that everybody else does, creating more than $65 million annually for low-income housing in our state. This year, I wrote the Wildfire Alleviation Support Act, which funds wildfire suppression efforts by taxing data center-centric digital banks like Rocket Mortgage. That bill passed out of both chambers of the legislature, and it awaits signage by the governor this year. This is material progress, and with an even bigger movement in and around the state legislature, we could make more of it. Too often in Olympia, corporate lobbyists have their way. Last year, as relayed by my office's friends in the Balance Our Tax Code Coalition, the 6 largest corporations in Washington state spent $2.1 million lobbying the state legislature. This year, those corporations flexed their influence to kill Representative Beth Dolio's legislation that would have closed tax breaks on big tech's data centers, which drive up utility costs on working-class Washingtonians in rural communities. After my first term in the legislature, I'm more convinced than before I was elected that there are more of us than there are of them, and that when we fight, we can win. But only if we fight. I've learned in Olympia that being a champion for everyday people does not mean that you always win. It means that you never stop fighting. A month before the 2026 legislative session began, I was joined on the steps of the state legislative building by economic justice advocates and working class activists to announce House Bill 2100, the Well Washington Fund proposal that would have devoted $3.5 billion annually to housing, healthcare, and higher education programs endangered by H.R. 1. This funding would have come from a payroll tax on the largest 1% of corporations in our state, and it could begin being assessed as soon as next year. Despite having the support of 25 lawmakers and a coalition of over 36 labor unions, economic justice advocacy groups, and legislative district Democratic Party organizations, House Bill 2100 did not advance out of the House Finance Committee. It never received a hearing in the state Senate. By contrast, a bill that will cut $450 million from Washington's low-income child care program over the next 5 years sailed out of both chambers of the legislature this year. Understand that state governments could protect people from the funding reductions that we are seeing from the federal government. Right now, the Trump administration is grifting on the shoddy fabric of American liberalism, promising ICE agents college debt cancellation, affordable housing, gainful employment. Fascism follows austerity. When state governments step back from the social contract, authoritarianism and right-wing extremists fill the void. While the Trump administration has quadrupled funding to immigration customs and enforcement, turning it into a dystopic jobs program, Washington state has reduced spending on its own public works infrastructure jobs. As ICE television ads have promised, new agents college debt reduction, Washington state in 2025 made college harder to afford for thousands by restricting access to its college grant program and floating across-the-board cuts to higher education. While the GOP has fearmongered against our immigrant neighbors, Washington state has been complicit in making life harder for these communities by threatening cuts to health services for asylees. Thanks in part to the work of my 43rd LD seatmate, Representative Macri, those services were preserved. But if Washington is serious about protecting its people from the other Washington, we must realize there is no such thing as social justice without economic justice. And in the 43rd Legislative District, we know the difference between saying justice has been done and actually doing it. I will commit to reintroducing the corporate payroll tax in a later legislative session. Friends, I followed a legend into the state legislature. Our community mourned his departure when he passed away shortly into my first year in office. Speaker Emeritus and former 43rd LD Position 2 Representative Frank Chop was perhaps the single most influential politician in our state's history. He was also my mentor and my friend. Frank was directly responsible for many state programs that millions in our state rely on today. The Education Legacy Trust account that funds childcare and early learning, the Workforce Education account that has made college free for thousands of low-income Washingtonians, the Housing Trust Fund that has created countless affordable housing units in all four corners of our state. I learned directly from Frank about all the ways that state government could be wielded to make the lives of Washingtonians better. Through bold ideas and practical action, we can win. Many of the policies that Frank was proudest of passing came about at a time when Washington, frankly, had fewer revenue issues than it does now. And I believe many in my generation and younger feel that we've inherited a world where previous generations had the time and money to live full lives, while it was left to us to clean up. But now is not the time for Washingtonians to wallow. The work of not only protecting past investments, but of growing them will soon be even more pressing than it is now. As more working families make use of our good schools and childcare programs, as more students attend our world-class universities, as more public employees educate children and build vital infrastructure with collectively bargained contracts, as more of the world's huddled masses find safe harbor and social safety net programs here, the legislature will have to get more serious than it is at present about taxing personal and especially corporate wealth. That's why, for as long as I have the honor of representing the 43rd Legislative District, I commit to putting people before profits. Alongside like-minded colleagues, I commit to advancing policies that don't meet the challenges ahead with the failed economic policies of ineffectual moderation, but with the bold progressivism for which Washington state is synonymous. In a 1914 pamphlet distributed by the Socialist Party of America during his first and only term in office, Representative Kingery said, "I feel that if I can gain a respectful hearing for socialism, I could pave the way for constructive legislative work in the future." I look forward to building that future with you.